Well, looks like Lexi did get to have some fun in her red room after all. But she had to sing that song, didn't she? So if you're not too scared of the Reaper yourself, let's talk about Chucky, episode 3. What's going on, Dungeon Dwellers? Welcome back to Dave's Dungeon. As always, I am the one, the only Dungeon Master Dave, bringing you the frights and delights of modern media on our journey through life. Won't you join me for this one? I had a lot of fun with this episode, if you can't tell. I feel really good. I got to have some sleep. I got sick for a little bit, but now I'm better, and I actually got to sleep in the minute that happened, so it was kind of nice. So this is like 5 a.m. again. Hi. uh, but it's fine. I just got through with the Chucky episode, and I gotta say, there's a lot to this one. There's so much that makes this infinitely interesting that you get a little bit of everything, and I really appreciate the show for that. With the plot, it's coming along. I really feel like it is developing, and they have a central sort of story that they're sticking to, which I dig. And it was the one thing I was worried about the TV show actually pulling off was a story, not just a bunch of random Chucky killing things for random reasons, It needed to feel more than that. It needed to have more oomph than just well, Chucky's here and he's doing his thing. And I feel like the show has captured that. The show is actually giving us a more thoughtful Chucky than I first thought they were going to do. And I kind of get why they did the second episode stuff now. It kind of makes a little bit more sense given the basis they're drawing from, given the sort of feel they want Chucky to have, and they do a lot more to kind of give you backstory in this one. They do a lot more to give you character development in Jake, and as always, I'm going to start spoiler free, and then we're going to slowly kind of creep our way into the spoiler section. But for right now, you should be pretty safe. I will say I like all the character angles the show is working with. I don't feel like any character that isn't critical to the story isn't doing something. You know what I mean? All of the characters that are critical to the story have some angle to play in Jake's story. And I really dig that because it's a microcosm around this young man and around how Chucky is working him. And I really dig that. I really kind of like how that works. And it lives up to the sort of coming of rage moniker the show tried to push early on. And I really dig that. I think it's a new take on the story, and I really hope they hold to hard tacks on this. But I don't have any worries about Don Mancini. Don Mancini's been doing this for years, and as he said, he's kind of grown to appreciate what he has to do to pull off some of this horror. If you're watching along and you're watching the extended stuff, which I didn't even know they were doing for a little bit, so I've got to see some really cool interviews and stuff. So overall, I'm happy with the plot. I'm happy with everything they're doing in the story so far. You got some really, really powerful moments in this episode, and you got some really, really sort of good for the characters moments that felt real, that felt authentic, and I can't judge. They were good, but at the same time, I was like, oh, and again, it's like nobody goes out there and jumps off the building in the Matrix. Nobody goes out there and jumps off the building the first time and just crosses the gap. Um, and it's kind of the same for this too. But good development on it. I would say he was further along than I thought he was. And that's saying something. Like he went out there and boy, that was a college try. Um he dang near would have had it too if it wasn't for that pesky, so and so. But anyways, I think that's going to be good for the plot. Let's talk about special effects. There are some in here that look a little goofy, but I think it's working overall. I think, and that's the kind of thing with Chucky. And he even kind of digs on it himself. He's like, I'm a doll. It's kind of hard to strangle somebody when your hands are, not that big. So it's working though. I don't want to say that, like, there are some special effects that happen that make me laugh, and they're not supposed to, but they end up doing because some part of it inevitably looks silly or or I think of something and it makes the moment end up looking silly. Like, especially the shot at the end. Like, part of me, I was giggling a bit because, yes, it brought me to, the sort of mania that Chucky's famous for. But at the same time, it brought me to a moment of, well, this is over faster than I wanted it to be. And I'm a little worried about that and about sort of what's going on and whether we're going to have lost something by the end of this. So, we'll see. I'll cover that a little bit more in spoilers. Plot, I'm sticking with my 9s. This show's sticking at that 9. It's really good, and all the character work is really solid. All the kill work is really solid. All the shots really do feel like you're covering a suburbia that matters and feels realistic, and I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Tension's building. And in this episode, there's sort of a breakover moment where tension really gets started. Man, it gets good in this one, and there's multiple types, so it helps to kind of layer well, and you get to see different sides of where this can build tension, and I liked it. I thought that was good. Gore. This one has some good stuff in it. I actually have to say the kills in this are actually rather well done. And I say kills instead of kill. That's a little bit of a spoiler for you non-spoiler people. Yeah, this one, it's ramping up, and you can definitely tell that. But it's not reached outside of the ridiculousness that the series is known for, and it's not reached out its most egregious stuff. So I really do got to stick with this, and say it's holding to. And in this one, it made sense. A lot of what happened made sense, and I get what the show's ultimately kind of going for. It's the gore in this is ultimately watchable. It's not too overblown. It's not too much. It's not trying to push an envelope in the way that, torture porn and gore fests are starting to do. Push that sort of, how much can I make you think I'm eviscerating someone and get you to watch. This is still very, you're scared because it's killing someone, and it's doing it in a very sort of, graphic and sort of dramatic way, and ultimately pretty painful way, because that it all has to get creative, but it still works. I want to say it's not over goofy, it's not over funny, although some moments are. But you still have the character sort of energy there that makes it all work, and Chucky is nothing if not, all these knobs go to 11 levels of energy. So I have to say the gore in this worked for me, and I think it's going to work for a lot of people because it's going to make the series ultimately more watchable. Oh, Victim Killer. I really like how this is developing, because you're, what would be a victim is growing in the way of the Bildungsroman journey, hero's journey, coming of age story. But it's growing the way, I guess you would say the villain's journey in a really refreshing way. But in you don't know if it's quite going there yet or not, and that's what's really neat about that. and you don't know if it's quite, you don't know where it's going yet, which is really nice. It has a mystery to it. It has a what's going on and why is he ultimately doing this sort of feel. And I don't hate that. At the same time, in the meantime, it lets you experience him in a way that's refreshing again. It's not so contrived that you can't get into it, but at the same time it's not silly, and it's not as playful as some of the later entries. And some of you may be like, this doesn't have enough wacky hijinks in it for me. I'm out. For those of you who are like that, I'm sorry. See ya. I hate that it's that way, but I feel like it's gonna get there. I don't feel like it's gonna stay in the sort of, and that's really ultimately what it's got to come down to, is like every horror thing has a breakover moment where the cat gets out of the bag, and we know we're not there yet, and that's really kind of gonna be where's the starting gun gonna be for the show, and where is it gonna be that the cat gets out of the bag and all of the people around notice, and then it becomes what we're used to, the sort of carnival of, well, everybody dies now. And I get the feeling that it's going there. You got realistically halfway decent parents in this one, and I feel like they could ultimately, that's part of the tension too. They could ultimately catch on, because you had some of that this episode, but it didn't feel like there was any ultimate ramification of them catching on to some of it. And that's sort of the refreshing part about this is, yeah, the parents got a taste of some of what was going on tonight. Not anything to do with Chucky, but just some of what was going on. And they still chose to do what they did, and that to me is that's just like a parent, and that's just like an adult to go, you know what? I'm not going to have a miserable time. They'll have a miserable time when I get back. And it's just, ugh. But we'll talk about that more in spoilers. So for this episode, I'm going to give it a 9. It's still holding strong. Like, if it got silly and it just fell off the rails, I might tell you. But it didn't. It ultimately lived up to what it's promised so far, and I kind of love that in multiple ways. So let's talk about it in spoilers. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys checking these things out. This series will continue on as long as we keep getting episodes, so keep your eyes open for more on Chucky, the TV series. So far, I'm having a blast, and I think it's one of the strongest products I've seen them put out this Halloween when it comes to the horror resurgence. So, definitely, if you haven't already, give this a watch. But make sure you subscribe as well so that you know when I drop more of these reviews, and you can play along, watch along, and comment down below what you think of each episode, and let me know too, and we can talk about it. So, but for now, thanks for joining me on these adventures, dungeon dwellers and horror fanatics. But you need to run away because we're getting into the spoiler section, and boy oh boy, should you fear the Reaper on this one. Boy oh boy, don't fear the Reaper, baby, take my hand. Don't fear the Reaper, maybe, baby. I'm not even gonna. No. I'm stopped. I'm not even gonna do it. I just made myself nervous singing that much of it. Anyway, spoiler section. Let's get into this. Small bit of synopsis. I really like how they're playing Jake's evolution in this episode, where he really feels like he should do something about what happened last time with Lexi, but he doesn't quite know how to go about it, and he doesn't know how to get justice for himself. And it's interesting to see how the episode tries to play that out in a few different ways. But Jake comes really freaking close, guys. And like that was so interesting to me that, like, yes, of course it was Junior running back, but that was like a good attempt. And if I was Chucky, I would have encouraged that instead of being like, so you didn't quite close the deal. I mean, yeah, get it. Don't uh reward him for not killing her when he had the chance, but he could have seen the opportunity wasn't right, and that it would have just pointed more at Jake. And if Jake's going to do this for any amount of time, he's going to be careful. And part of what Chucky's lesson this episode kind of was about that, was about taking your time and being patient and waiting for the moment, and the moment being right, and then kind of executing when it's right. And that to me felt like a good sort of, it's almost like Chucky's trying to be a dad to this kid, and it's a kid that doesn't seem to really be ready for this, and he's not born to it like Charles is, and like so many before him were. And this episode does a really good job with the history for Chucky, because we actually get to see that first kill, and oh man, I didn't think I needed that, but that was cool. That was neat. That was history I didn't have, and it feels right. In everything Don Mancini's done to this universe, this part felt the most right of any change or any further development of the Chucky canon legacy. You know, this felt the most sort of right and developed sort of way to go with it. And I really dig that. I really dig him getting to have a soft moment with a hard villain, with a, you know, something that happened in his history, and he ends up being a part of it. And it all kind of made sense given the character we have now. And I can see where Jake would or could develop that way. It's not said outright that Jake isn't up for this. Quite the opposite, actually. I see Jake as full of potential, but at the same time, I feel like Jake did need an opportunity to mourn his innocence because he still had it. He still feels like he's a kid, and he's not quite, though he's dealing with an adult problem here, he doesn't quite feel like he's ready to deal with an adult problem here, or an adult sort of action he's fixing to take on. And so the whole graveyard scene where he goes back and he apologizes to his parents, excuse me, and he starts crying, that was a really good sort of delivery from that actor, and I really believed that. And especially given his performance earlier, he seems to want to try, and even after Lexi has done all that she's done from episode 2, he still seems like he's trying to protect her. He still seems like even though he's not happy with her, even though she is a terrible human being to him, and even though she deserves half of what she gets, man, he doesn't want to go that step because he knows that would make him bad too. Or at least in his mind, because you can tell Jake has if not a budding sense of right and wrong, he's at least learning quickly. And from there, it's like Lexi doesn't have a sense of right and wrong. So, but the TV series is now breaking me of that, just, you know, illusion. It's dispelling that much, because I do feel like Lexi does, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Lexi, or at least there was. I have real serious worries that Lexi's no longer with us anymore, kids, because that whole bedroom went up on flames. And man, I love that red room. That red room is so cool. Her space is probably the neatest bedroom I've ever seen. And quite a callback to, you know, if you know what a red room is. Twin Peaks looking at you. That new gum you like is coming back in style too. Anyways, and this was like a lot of throwbacks. I mean, like, "Don't Fear the Reaper." She literally sings it to her sister, and then we all know what that means. Every person who has a horror history and has experienced "Don't Fear the Reaper" knows that after that moment, all bets are off and someone's gonna die. So it was a great homage to all the deaths that were fixing to happen, and given that it's Lexi singing it, it has a special sweetness, but then a special, oh man, this is gonna be her singing her own, epitaph, her own swan song, that concept of our death song, if you will. And that was so good. And I didn't see her get stabbed. I did not see her get actually cut. And I didn't see any blood. And I didn't see anything, Yeah, this is why I say I'm scared Lexi's dead. That room was hella on fire, and he was standing at the foot of a bed with a knife, and she's just in a corner, and the room around them is burning. But that doesn't necessarily mean she's dead, because I ain't seen a receipt. I ain't seen a body. That could be the top of the next episode, to bring us in and continue the sizzle, because so much of this show has been a sort of continuity saver episode to episode. You get to see sort of what happens at the end, and then the next thing is sort of showing you the ramifications. Or, you get episode 2, which was a death mid, so you could have the ramifications in that episode that sets up the party incident, so they could get it out of the way to set up for the party. I kind of get what the show's doing there. It needed to kind of get the death in, and with Chucky, this doesn't seem like it's a passing craze. It means he'll stab ya till the end of your days. Coming soon. It's a murder spree, catastrophe. It's wonderful, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And there's so much, to the dynamic between Junior and Jake, and I'm starting to see Junior now as like, oh, he could just as easily have been Jake, and but for, oh man, winning the lottery, he's starting to wake up and see that Lexi's not a good person, and she's not necessarily doing good things, and neither are most of the other people around him. And now he's starting to get really worried about Jake too, because I hate to run up on my stepbrother. Is it stepbrother? I think it's cousin. I'd hate to run up on my cousin. No, it's not stepbrother. It's cousin. I'd hate to run up on my cousin like that. Oh shit! I didn't mean to stab you, man. I was just running with a butcher knife, and I want, I got to point it somewhere. It was an interesting thing, and like I said, with that, he was so close. He could have stabbed Junior. It would have been an interesting point in all of it, and if they had let that kind of go forward, that would have been a neat sort of thing of like, oh, I stabbed Junior, and Junior's now scared of him. But Junior, it worked half as well, half measure still worked, because while he didn't, he may not have registered what he saw, he at least saw something, because he wouldn't, he beelines it to Lexi, like, Lexi, you need to go say something to Jake. Like, he is not okay. Like, that was a smart thing, Junior. Jesus. If you're worried, I'm still wondering if Junior has something out for Lexi too now, because it's not working out well between them two. And now that the parents know, I see that kind of blowing up, so to speak. And if you can't tell, like, all the fire, I'm expecting, like, that to be its own problem, because, like, Charles is standing in the middle of a burning room as a doll. I'm wondering if this is over, because, like, he's the only thing holding her in the burning room, so she could escape. But at that point, is he going to melt in there with her? Because, like, how is he going to kind of come back from that, given... You get what I'm saying? It's a neat image. I really had fun with what he did, and I want to see how it all turns out. And it's going to be interesting if he just caught fire with Lexi, too. But at the same time, I don't think so. I think it's some movie thing where either they'll both escape or he'll have gotten out and pretty much unscathed and she'll be dead. But we'll see how that plays out. I feel like they have more to give us with that going to the next episode. So we'll see. But if they choose to resolve it at the top, it'll be interesting to see what happens to her. And as a pseudo mid-season or mid sort of early villain, I feel like Lexi, I wanted more time with her, so I hope she's not fully dead. Let's put it that way. I feel like as someone they're developing to be antagonist in a way to Jake's villainous hero status, I want to say, protagonist-esque almost. And that's sort of the twist to this, is that Charles is kind of telling him, all the heroes go through this, or all the people go through this. Everybody's kind of having these things. So, like, Jake is feeling like this is something he has to do, not necessarily something he wants to do. And with his teachers kind of getting in on it, and the cop getting in on it, and boy, did that cop mom make a mistake. Lord have mercy telling someone you will or will not, and this is a mandate, see someone again. Well, I know what I won't be doing. You shouldn't even open your mouth. But other than that, I think it did really well. So make sure you check it out, and make sure you're checking it out every Tuesday at 10/9 Central. But if you can't check it out then, I actually had to miss an episode this week. I got to check it out online. If you have cable or whatever through the app, you can watch the episode online. So make sure you guys are watching it. I really like this series, and I want it to continue. So don't Firefly me, sci-fi, please. But with that said, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you so much for joining me once again. You horror fanatics, you animals, you. Make sure you leave a like, though. I really appreciate it. It tells YouTube I don't suck. And maybe I do suck, so, don't dislike me. I don't want to suggest that, but, just if you think these episodes are cool, I'd appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell so you get all notifications when I drop these videos. But without any further ado, thanks for journeying with me, Dungeon Dwellers. I hope to see you on our next adventure. But until then, don't let the bed bugs bite.